Now for global business updates, Rotus Odiri joins us. Good morning, Rotus.
Good morning, Dr. Abasi. Good morning, Ayo. Good morning, Rufai, all our viewers. We saw oil prices pick up a little bit with that Venezuela vessel being seized, but they've fallen again. So look, we've averaged $60 for this year. But to Asia markets, Oracle in after the market closed in the U.S., released their earnings. Estimates were missed, and there's a lot of worry. This is, of course, Mr. Larry Ellison's company. So tech stocks, there was a lot of worries on the capital expenditure for the company, and I think it fell in after hours trading. So that bled into a lot of technology stocks in Asia, which normally would track Wall Street, because Wall Street was up after the Fed cut rates yesterday, but you can see that there was a divergence there. So China down, Hong Kong down, Japan down, so was Korea, just India and Australia up for this particular day. So we get to the US, and we did see the Federal Reserve did actually vote to cut interest rates, but we had the first 3 dissents since 2019. Mr. Goolsbee from Chicago, there was another vote from Kansas City, the Kansas City Fed chief, and then those two, Goolsbee and I think it's Jeff Schmidt, voted to hold rates in place. The third dissent, no surprise, is Stephen Moran, Trump's appointed member of the board. He voted for a 50 basis point cut, and later we heard Trump saying he wanted 50 basis points. So this is the third cut this year, 25 basis points. Your Fed funds rate range 3.5 to 3.75%. The dot plot, the median dot plot, there's a lot of division there, but the median dot plot, they maintained one cut in 2026 and one cut in 2027, but there was a lot of division as to how many cuts. Now, one of the main issues that the US is going through here is that they still feel that inflation is going to be sticky to the upside in America. And in the first quarter of next year, Trump's big, beautiful bill is going to be dishing out a lot of stimulus. So there are going to be a lot of tax refunds, which is, you're going to put money in people's pockets. They're expected to spend it, and that's going to, still put inflation upwards. So that was one of the, that's one of the reasons why you saw a lot of division, because they don't think they want more cuts. But we're going to get a new Fed chair next year. It looks like it's going to be Kevin Hassett. He follows Trump's wishes. So we saw the dollar fall. There's a lot of mixed messaging around what could happen in 2026, because if you are cutting rates while inflation is still sticky, you're asking for problems. All right, so from there we go to Ghana. Ghana third quarter GDP, I think this is the main figures to look at here. In the third quarter of this year, Ghana's economy expanded by 5.5. Your blue bars is overall GDP. Your orange bars is non-oil. So you can see here, stretching all the way back to 2023, that non-oil in the orange bars has been the main story for Ghana's economic expansion. So 5.5% in the third quarter. It did slow a bit from the 6.5 in the second quarter of this year. Gold, cocoa, and the likes. Agriculture was the main driver. But look at the largest sector. This is something similar we saw with Nigeria. The three largest sectors in Ghana's economy. In blue, you've got services. Yeah, services in blue, 39.7. Industry in orange, and agriculture in green. So this is the share of the economy. Much like Nigeria's zone is 50% for services. What was it, 20-something for industry and agriculture. So 39.7. But you look at their year-on-year growth, agriculture was the main growth driver here at 8.6, and then you've got their contribution to economic growth there. You look at the top 5 subsectors in Ghana that grew. Look at fishing, 23.1% growth that boosted agriculture. You've had a strong cedi. Inflation has decelerated to 6% in November from 8% in October in Ghana. The cedi has been pretty strong, and that, of course, has led to inflation fall. Look at the ICT, 17%, transport and storage 10.4%, trade 10%, and crops. So you can see crops and fishing really boosting agricultural growth in the land of the Black Stars. The contracting sectors, oil and gas, no surprise. I just talked to you about oil prices, even though the US seized that Venezuelan vessel. Oil has been weak this year, so oil and gas contracted by 18%. Health and social work is down. Look at mining and quarrying down as well. Other personal services, accommodation and food are falling by 7.2. Now, Ghana, again, as I mentioned, their current account surplus has helped their balance of payments, also trade as well. So they have a surplus of $1.8 billion as of October 2025. Their FX reserves have now risen to $11.4 billion on the back, of course, of gold prices rising and also cocoa prices rising as well. Yeah, that's the FX reserve, 11.4 billion for the FX reserves. Meanwhile, the Nigerian Stock Exchange, it's very interesting. Last week, to start December, Monday, the market fell and then accelerated through the rest of the week. This week, Monday, the market rose, and since then, it's been falling. But anyway, 5 basis point drop for the all-share index, 146,862 points is where we are. Still, so far this year, the Nigerian Stock Exchange is up by 42.69. Who would like to do push-ups in the airports? This is 71-year-old RFK Jr., who, by the way, is facing articles of impeachment from some Democrats from Michigan. The U.S. is looking at expanding airport infrastructure. So Sean Duffy, who, by the way, is 54 years old, RFK is 71. He did 20 pull-ups. Duffy is 54. He only did 5. But Duffy's daughter then did about 20 or so. But anyway, so Duffy gave a press conference where he talked about expanding infrastructure in U.S. airports. And they said they got some kind of extra money from Congress. Again, part of the big, beautiful bill. The Trump administration is going to be pumping a lot of money into the economy to do a lot of things. Keep that in mind, everyone listening, because watch inflation in the U.S. next year. Anyway, as part of this extra money that they're going to be getting, they want to expand and possibly add exercise equipment to airports. So here's U.S. Transport Secretary Sean Duffy talking about that.
Pretty wide open on what airports want to ask for a grant, but it might be, I want to expand the play areas for kids. I want additional nursing pods for nursing mothers. Maybe I want a workout area where people might get some blood flow and doing some pull-ups or some step-ups in the airport.
Yeah, and so you had, what's his name, RFK doing them, and then Sean Duffy, and then Sean Duffy's daughter. But that's essentially, yeah, there he is. So there's RFK. I mean, the man's form is, I have to say, his form is pretty good for a 71-year-old. And then we had Duffy after him. So that's pretty much our updates for today.
So it's actually, he made his film from MTV back in the days, actually.
Yeah.
That was his first,
Sean Duffy, right?
Yeah, that was his first call to,
I think I remember. I'm trying to remember. I think I remember.
Public limelight.
Yeah.
But, you see, I think the success story here is Ghana.
Yeah.
And kudos to Mahama. Many things he's got right. But the real point that has turned the economy around is the reforms in the Galamsey sector. And maybe if we are honest enough, we can learn from the Galamsey sector reforms. And I'll give you a timeline. January, there was a machinery registration mandate where they registered all the equipment and they were tracking smuggling. June 2025, there was gold traceability enhancements, where they introduced digital tracking for exports to the UAE men smuggling route of their gold. In September 2025, there was the anti-Galamsey task force expansion and media encounter. Then there were lots of other reforms in the Galamsey sector. Once they could get the protection of their minerals rights, then there was a lot of change, and you can see the numbers. With the level of financial prudence, I mean, look at the state of the economy. If my memory serves me right, he just came in January last year. Because I remember I was in America. In fact, the day his inauguration was going on, I was in the gym in Atlanta that day. The day his inauguration was going on in early January 2024. In the space of 1 year, he stabilized the economy and he's true to type. You remember that major helicopter crash that happened that some government official died? It was a Galamsey enforcement they were going to do. So everybody's on board as regards the Galamsey enforcement. And once they can track those things and make the minerals of the country count for them, you can see the upsurge and the results. So maybe we can learn from if we are honest. But here, 2 out of 3 times we will not be honest enough to implement that same implementation he did.
All right, okay, so the last video you showed on Sean Duffy, that conversation came about based on exploring ways to make travel experiences better for the American people and people who use the airports. In fact, the report was that Sean Duffy had called a few CEOs of some American airlines, and he had asked them, and one of the things they highlighted, and I want to point out the fact there was healthy eating and healthy options for American travelers to enhance travel experience. Now, Now, a question was posed to him as to whether or not he could influence a reduction in the price of food sold at the airport. And he said, no, market forces control that. Yep. And so what they can do is to provide more options. And I say this because of the Nigerian context. Earlier on, I talked about market forces and the airfares in Nigeria, how it's deregulated. So when it comes to fixing prices, there's little or nothing or to a limited way that the government can intervene. However, what can help in a free market is options and ensuring that there are viable options to bring down cost of prices. And that's why there are conversations as well around government responsibility or providing alternative options for people to travel and secure and in terms of security, so that the airline operators don't have monopoly on prices in addition to all the other costs we've talked about. Yeah. But that's what we're saying, that when it comes to talking about the airfare prices, we must look at it holistically. Look at what America is doing. Look at the problem they are solving, how to make healthy eating. But it was just around that question on how, bring down the prices of food, and it's down to market forces. Yeah. But what you can do is provide options from a government perspective to ensure that operators do not take advantage of the people. And I believe that in the Nigerian context, we can also talk about that when it comes to airfares.
Okay, you are talking about Duffy and RFK Jr. Looking at how airports in the US can be family friendly. And that's an example that you have shown. How can we make airports in Nigeria family friendly? From even the environment. You go, the carousel is not working, the toilets are bad, the infrastructure is antediluvian. And then, you have senators talking about ticket fares. Now, I know that government can support the aviation sector. After all, the US, during COVID, provided about $54 billion to support the aviation sector. There can be some kind of support. I'm not asking for subsidy, but where there are issues, government can provide an enabling environment for aviation. But there's something they do in Nigeria here. The roads are not safe. The trains are not safe. Yep. So people, the only option they have, particularly at this Utah season, is to travel by air. And then what they do, if you buy a ticket in the morning, if you book it in the morning, they give you a particular figure. In the evening, they will tell you double the price. If you wait till another 1 hour, the price has changed. Now there's price fixing. And the minister says it's market forces, but market forces should wear a human face. There is what is called ticket buccaneering for the sake of profit in Nigeria. That's what we should, address. Why we ask that government should also support that sector. As for the dot plot, Federal Reserve, yes, they say there will only be one cut next year, another one in 2027, but Powell will no longer be there. Jerome Powell is going to leave next year, May. And Trump is saying, they should have been doubled what they did. Should have been, 50% basis points. So there's a lot about what to expect next year. But clearly, at this moment, it was not unanimous. They voted 9-3. Yep. 2 governors wanted a steady rate. Yep. One said, there should be half-point basis rate. That's Governor Milan. The other 2, the governor from Kansas and the governor from Chicago. So that's what has happened. But, Powell is saying the U.S. has an extraordinary economy. Indeed. So the major surprise was the bond market that they say tomorrow they are going to buy 40 billion. And silver, that I mentioned yesterday, has also gone up. Now 62.05 per ounce, dollars, that is. Thank you very much.
Thank you.